You're about to hear an episode of the Bad Crypto Podcast. If you enjoy the show, won't you please take a moment to subscribe and review us on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, or wherever you hear the show? Thanks. James Altucher got bit by the crypto bug back in 2013, and he's enjoyed following the markets ever since. As a hedge fund manager, entrepreneur, author, venture capitalist, and podcaster, James's audience is always eager to hear what he thinks. And so am I. While in New York, I had the opportunity to visit with James in his Upper West Side condo to talk about many topics for the Joel Comm Show. Did you know I got another podcast? Well, I do. And during that interview, we spent some time examining his current thoughts on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. It was interesting enough that Travis and I felt it merited a special edition of this show. So we welcome you inside the mind of James Altucher. It's a special episode of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
Welcome to the Bad Crypto Podcast, show for the crypto curious, the crypto serious, and those of you who don't mind half a show.
Yeah, it's just part of a show today, folks. But the good parts.
Yeah, the best parts.
The best part. Now with less banter.
But still with our sponsors. For example, MobiPay. As you guys know by now, MobiPay.io is coming out with a really cool platform that supports cashback programs, fiat, and major crypto on-ramps, off-ramps, and you can get $10 in free MBX when you sign up for their beta. Go to MobiPay.io. Yeah, James was on Bad Crypto like 2 years ago, episode number 47.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. Well, I remember when.
Get off my lawn. Remember, he had all these ads running on YouTube all over and on Instagram and like what I learned about the crypto markets. And remember, he said 95% of them are all scams.
He did. And so, you know, you and I were in New York last week for NFT.NYC. And previous to you arriving there, I got to go over to James's place and we did a lengthy show where we talked about all kinds of things. I mean, we talked about politics and we talked about the president and we talked about crypto and we talked about coronavirus. We didn't talk about Corona beer, but we talked about a lot of things. And his mind, the way his mind works is just fascinating to me. And during this interview, there was a segment where we talked crypto. And I thought, you know what? You guys need to hear this segment. And so we're going to play that for you right now. James Altucher. Let's talk about Bitcoin for a moment, because I didn't realize this when Travis and I first interviewed you for the show. But once upon a time, at least if the wiki is true, you poo-pooed Bitcoin.
Yeah, in I want to say March 2013. Somebody asked, I used to do these Twitter Q&As every Thursday. I did it for 6 years from 2010 to 2016, like clockwork, every Thursday at 3:30. I only skip Thanksgivings every year, and I just did it 51 weeks out of the year. And during one of these Q&As in 2013, early 2013, somebody asked me what I thought of Bitcoin. And I said, I think it's a scam, which I did think. One of my friends saw that, Naval Ravikant, who later became, or is currently very active in the Bitcoin space. And he was visiting New York and we spent like 3 or 4 hours together or more, maybe 5 hours together. And he just broke down everything for me from like a programmer's perspective, then from an economic perspective, like everything about Bitcoin. This was like in maybe like just a few weeks later. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And then just a month later, I built a store to sell. I was releasing on June 1st. Of my book, Choose Yourself, and I was self-publishing it on Amazon. So what I did was, as a marketing thing, I created my own store, which accepted Bitcoin. And by the way, I reached out to a lot of people to help me. Nobody even knew how to do it. Like I reached out to Coinbase. They stopped returning my calls. And I even complained to their VC, like, if Coinbase is going to be active in the Bitcoin space, shouldn't they encourage people to use Bitcoin for transactions? They were like useless for me. So anyway, I created this Bitcoin store that accepted Bitcoin. And I had one product in the store, which was my book. And so if you wanted my book a month earlier than the official release date, you had to pay it in Bitcoin. Bitcoin was $61 a Bitcoin at the time. You had to pay 1/10 of a Bitcoin. So I got a bunch of Bitcoins from this. And, and everybody had to leave their email address to buy so I could mail them the PDF of the book. And it was almost all Amazon employees.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's funny. So you got Bitcoin really
So
early
yeah,
then.
so yes, I thought it was a scam, but so what? Everybody. Then I was convinced by and spoken to by someone who I really admired and who was incredibly smart and is incredibly smart, and I changed my mind.
Yeah.
So
you mean you could do that in 2020?
people are like, oh, he thought this in 2013, and then he just changed his mind to make some money. No, I created a store and I very publicly announced it. I was on CNBC talking about Bitcoin, and I was probably more active in the Bitcoin space than just about anybody. Nobody had a bookstore in Bitcoin.
That's really early. I mean, when you think about it, and I remember, and usually I'm early to the game. I like to pioneer and play with the cool toys when they come out. When I heard about Bitcoin, I didn't get it because I didn't understand this whole mining idea. I mean, what are there little people on my processor? Ding, 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 ding. Bitcoins are shooting out. And because I didn't understand what that meant, I just kind of it wasn't until 2017 that I finally went, oh, that's brilliant. Why didn't I get that before?
Well, I think if you start with the problems of money, you very quickly start to think of what the solutions could be. And then it turns out Bitcoin and its spin-offs solve a lot of the problems of money. Just like paper money solved a lot of the problems of metal money. Like, let's say, I don't know, you wanted to buy a house. You wouldn't bring a truckload of gold bars to the closing. There's some problems with money. And so paper money became these kind of certificates representing the value of the metal that, you could buy with this paper. If you go to the U.S. government, Fort Knox, and show, $100 bill in 1900 backed by gold, you wouldn't get the gold, but potentially the U.S. government was backing it with gold that they owned. That had a problem, though, because what if your country was very innovative and successful, but simply didn't have the natural resources of having gold deposits under the ground in their country? So it seemed kind of silly to, top out your innovation just based on how much metal you had under the ground. So we moved to a more fiat or basically trust-based system. If you trusted the innovation and creativity of your government, then you would trust the money. And it was backed by the goodwill of your government. There's enormous problems with that. Many problems. We don't have to get into them. But, it's...
Well, what if you don't trust the government?
Well, first off, it's centralized. There's fees. There's every time you make a wire, there's fees all throughout the banking system that are baked into the entire system. There's a lack of privacy. There's so many problems. But there's like maybe 7 or 8 like really big problems that people wanted to legitimately solve, particularly after, you think about the financial crisis of 2008. I don't think people realize, particularly now, it's kind of almost forgotten. I don't think people realize the world really had run out of money. Like there was no money to pay people if everybody wanted their money. So the system broke. And a very large Band-Aid was put on top of it. And you don't know whether it was luck or skill or thank God or whatever, but that Band-Aid worked. Who knows if it'll work a second time?
Right, because it's no different today, right? We still don't have the money, although we're just printing billions of dollars.
Right. I mean, they did solve a lot of problems coming out of that. Some of them were structural. Some of them were very just brute force, like give all the banks like $1 trillion. But some of them were structural, just how banks should value things. It's getting into the weeds, but it was clearly there was a big hole in a fiat money system, and Bitcoin solves that. And we'll see, because whenever there's any new financial instruments ever in history, Wall Street and speculators will go crazy for a little while, and then you have scammers and con artists go crazy as well. And I think we have seen the first wave of that. So in September 2017, this is another part people don't remember me saying. I was everywhere writing and saying, I went on CNBC and said it. I said 98% of these altcoins that you're seeing now and these ICOs are total scams being run by criminals or incompetents. So, and it's hard to tell which is which, but 98% of these coins are going to go to zero. At this point in time, probably about 85% of those original ones are gone now. They're zeroed out. And the main ones, which I always recommended, the kind of the main players, either Bitcoin or Ethereum or the other coins that provide a very important role in the ecosystem as opposed to just kind of some small functionality. Those have survived, and all of the little play things, the ICOs and all that kind of stuff have all, most of them have gone to zero. There's still a few more I think that'll go to a zero. There's some big ones I think that'll still go to zero.
You want to say what they are?
Well, this is the sort of category where I get death threats occasionally. So, but I don't think, maybe it'll somehow become legit over time, like which occasionally happens. But I think Ripple is probably a scheme, but I have no real evidence of that. Just studying it, just studying how the code works. I think Ripple's probably a scheme.
Is it the code, or is it because it's highly centralized?
Both. I mean, you could the functionality is implied by the code, and in the code you could see who has control over printing up new coins. If it's centralized, who has the control of printing money? That's the whole idea of Bitcoin, is that nobody has direct control over it. And so unless there's what's called a 51% attack. But I'm not saying, I said it was a scheme and not a scam, meaning who knows? I don't know what the outcome is, but I just simply wouldn't own it. Even if it goes up, I don't think of these things as investments. I think of these as the future currencies of the planet. So if you're thinking of putting some percent of your portfolio in what could quite possibly be the default currency of the planet, I wouldn't use Ripple for that.
Just to timestamp this, it is February 19th, and right now on CoinGecko, Ripple XRP, the coin that supports the function of Ripple, is 30 cents, has a market cap of $13 billion.
Yeah. So that kind of suggests it's not a fad, right? There's a lot of money. In order to get up to 13 billion, it's not like mom and pop is buying up all the Ripple. It's some big money in there. Although we don't know how much of that is owned by the initial founders and so on, who could print up more money, and they say they can. It's very confusing, Ripple. Bitcoin is not confusing. Ethereum is not confusing. There's thousands and thousands of people who have looked at the code and studied it and tried to figure out any potential scams that can happen. And so it's pretty rock solid, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of other coins in those ecosystems. Whereas Ripple is not as thoroughly studied. There's some, because it is centralized, and there's some aspects of it that I don't know why do they need to do that if they're trying to solve the problems of, a lot of these people. I'm not saying Ripple did this again. I'm just saying a lot of these ICOs just raised money for their coins that were never implemented and put the money in their pocket and disappeared. Mm-hmm. So, and that was obvious that was going to happen.
What about the primary Bitcoin forks, Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV?
I don't care for them. I don't say that they're bad, but Bitcoin is still legit. And, the framework underneath Bitcoin, it gets better and better. The speeds, we're going to have this halving moment pretty soon.
Months.
Yeah. And that's going to change a lot of things in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I don't know. I don't feel like any of those they have uses, or they had uses at fork time, but I think now they're just speculative.
Do you think we'll get to a point where we are using Bitcoin as a currency? Because it's so speculative, and if people are saying, hey, it's going to go to 100,000 or 500,000, why would you want to be like Laszlo and spend 10,000 Bitcoin on a couple pizzas when those pizzas end up worth multi-millions?
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if Bitcoin will really be used for transactions anytime soon. But look, gold's not used for transactions, and yet billions of dollars worth of gold is traded every day. So, and gold actually has no real functionality, whereas Bitcoin actually has functionality. Like the blockchain, and blockchain is the most boring topic in the world, but it actually has functionality. And so hence Bitcoin has functionality. So it could be used for those purposes as well. Not just one function of Bitcoin is as a currency. Another is for its kind of extra legal functionality with its Lightning network on top of it, and then as a store of value, it's being used. So when coronavirus, when Iran, we're going to have war with Iran, Bitcoin spiked because everybody, believe it or not, everyone in Iran who had money was like, I got to get my dinars the hell out of here. I'm going to put it in Bitcoin because I can't transport gold around so easily. So Bitcoin shot up. And then right on top of that was coronavirus, and Bitcoin shot up again. Like, oh no, what if the, China is completely quarantined, and that means nobody in the US is going to get their made in China products, which by the way is almost every single product in America. And then the American financial system has a similar 2008 style collapse. So you saw a lot of smart money, tens of billions of dollars rotate into Bitcoin. Bitcoin shot up like 30% since coronavirus erupted 2 months ago.
Great stuff. Mr. Joel Comm, you ask great questions.
Thank you. I try to listen a lot, and James certainly has a lot to say. And what was really interesting is after this conversation was over and we hit stop, the conversation continued for another hour with his wife in the room and a friend of his. And there's so many rabbit holes to go down. And I'd like to invite all of you to go listen to the full episode of the Joel Comm Show. And you can go to comm.us. You know how we've got badco.in as our short link for bad crypto? I own comm, comm.us /59, and that'll take you to my website that has this episode, or you can go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio, any of the places, locate the Joel Comm Show, listen to this interview, and would love to hear what you think. And of course, please subscribe to the show while you're there.
So how cool was it like to do the interview in person versus how normally we do the interviews? You and I are in a different place, normally a different state. The guest is normally on another screen. It's a lot different when you're in person, a lot more warm, a lot more enchanting.
It really is. He was very warm and very gracious. His wife was also very gracious and super smart. She had some interesting things to say offline after we were done recording. And he's got this cool condo there in the Upper West Side. And
Right.
So I hope to visit with him again in the future.
Very good. Maybe I should have a Travis Wright show now.
Maybe well, you kind of do. You have the Kansas City Sportscast.
That's for fun. That is true. That's just more just talking for the Chiefs year, because I figured it was going to be an amazing year, and now we have documentation.
Yeah. Well, you're going to continue it. You'll continue it, and who knows? Maybe the Royals will have a good year, and you'll want to talk about that.
Maybe so. Maybe I want to chat with some people stacking skills. That's always a good thing. I want to do.
How about you tell? Yeah, that would be a great show. We've talked about you writing your next book, stacking skills, and my show is it's different because I don't want to just talk about business. I've done shows like that before in the past. I want to have real conversations that focus on the things that people are really concerned about and the things they think about. And because of that, I never know where they're going to go. Right. With James, it was like we would go down this one, path, and then all of a sudden the conversation was about something else because he says something, and then I'm just intrigued and I want to ask him about that other topic.
Yeah, you got to have somebody rein that in. Like, remember that 3 rabbit holes ago? Can we wrap up that one?
Right. That is part of the deal.
So that was fun. We were in New York and at the NFT.NYC. Again, we talked about how big NFTs are going to be. And actually, one of our friends who are in the NFT space was there with Upland.me. Dirk, yeah, and his other teammate were there, and we actually did a contest to see who was going to own the first parcel of an airport, flying from San Francisco to their next destination, which may or may not be New York City. We cannot confirm nor deny any of that, but we want to say Upland.me is it's like Monopoly on the blockchain. And right now, all of San Francisco proper is available, and people are claiming properties there and coming visiting and going, and it's really fun how it works. And you get UPX tokens, and the things cost whenever you buy one, you get like a digital deed on the blockchain that says you own this, and then you can sell it. It's really fun. But if you go to badco.in/Upland from your mobile device and actually click on that and then install the app, whenever you sign in for the first time, instead of 3,000 tokens, they actually give you 6,000 tokens for free just because you're a friend of Bad Crypto. So see how we do you?
Yeah, Dirk posted some screenshots in the Upland community on Telegram showing what the treasure hunts are going to look like, because pretty soon there'll be more in-game missions and you'll be able to discover treasures along the way. badco.in/upland. Do it on your mobile browser in order to get the bonus UPIC tokens for your first time sign up. Cool stuff.
I love it. Upland, not downland.
See, this was a half an episode.
This was.
But the whole interview with James is actually like twice the episode.
Like 2 episodes.
Yeah. So again, please
go listen to that now. Go listen to that now and enjoy it.
Yeah. And thanks for listening to our show. Got some great stuff coming your way. Next episode will be the bad news episode, tracking the crypto space, and in partnership with our friends at Cointelegraph.com. We'll look forward to bringing that to you. And the halving is approaching, gang. So prepare for it. Batten down the hatches. Buckle in.
Yeah. As
Use your deodorant.
And Mr. Joel Comm would say, if he had both shows at the same time, he would say, stay bad and do good stuff.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor.